Good morning, Saints. Okay. Hopefully that's not fuzzy. That looks all right. Okay. Sometimes I have to ask that because I'm not sure where my eyesight's at the moment. If you bow with me for a word of prayer. Our gracious and kind Heavenly Father, we are so grateful for the worship that we have received this morning. We pray that we would continue in that worship and the study of your word. Please guide and direct us and help us and guide us this day to follow your words and to do the things that you would have us do. And these things we pray in Christ Jesus' name. Amen. Okay, I think that we left off, or we actually finished 17c. So I think we're ready for the next verses, if I recall correctly. Is that what everybody else kind of remembers? Okay, I see some heads just shaking yes. So, all right, we'll move on to that. And do I need to turn the lights down more, or is it still kind of washed out? Yeah. Okay. Is that better? Okay, great. I know that can be kind of harsh on your eyes when you're trying to see something. Okay, so 18a and 18b. Would someone like to read those two verses?
I don't remember going through this song. Did we actually go through the song? Oh, with Dawn?
With Dawn, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You're talking about this song, yeah, because that's a unique song, by the way, and
17, so, okay.
yeah, there's only one instance. I know I had looked to see if anyone had actually set that to music, and there's only one person that did, and I think it was Leo Gussman, I think.
Oh, really?
That, in fact, I've got the CD right here that that he had done, and it's on here. Carl had given that to me because I was actually looking for that because I was really kind of surprised that the LDS, and I couldn't find anybody that really, at least searching online, that anybody had set it to music. Granted, it is a bit difficult because it's right. It's not. It's not that I claim to know anything about music. I don't. But I assume that most music is poems and so forth that have been then set to music. And so it has a cadence to it. But anyway, was there somebody that wanted to say something? Or oh, okay.
What did he call it?
What did he call it? Let's see here.
Song of Zion or something?
I don't know. I'll let you look at it.
Oh,
And,
okay. Sorry.
see if you can find it. No, it's all right.
Yeah,
That way I don't hold up the class.
yeah.
But yeah, when you find it, you can let me know. I couldn't find it there quick enough, so I figured I'd let you do that. So anyway, yeah, so 18a and b, would someone like to read those two verses? Yeah, thanks.
And again, verily, verily, I say unto you, it is expedient that every man who goes forth to proclaim mine everlasting gospel, that inasmuch as ye have families, and receive monies by gift, that they should send it unto them, or make use of it for their benefit, as the Lord shall direct them. For thus it seemeth me good. And let all those who have not families, who receive monies, send it up unto the bishop in Zion, or unto the bishop in Ohio, that it may be consecrated for the bringing forth of the revelations and the printing thereof, and for establishing Zion.
Okay. Before I launch off into anything, what are your thoughts on that? Did you find it, or?
It's number 20.
Okay, number 20. Yeah. Yeah, the Lord had brought again Zion. Yeah, that's it. You didn't want me to turn this into a lecture model, do you? I don't know about you, but I got enough of that in college. And oh yeah,
So the idea and the establishment of Zion, it's after the Pentecost, everything, it's total consecration. So it's not 10%. It's not Abraham bringing his tithing to Melchizedek. God always requires that of us, and I've struggled with really figuring out what is the amount I'm supposed to tithe, and I guess it's easier just to err on the side of, well, I'll give a little bit more, and it's also how you do it. The widow and her mite, and it's something that we need to do for us. God doesn't need our money; He can do whatever. But in this type of situation, a celestial level, the establishment of His kingdom on earth, we're required to give all, which is not the traditional biblical teaching, but yet it was in every instance where they had a near Zionic perfect condition. And so this is baby steps into it, and you think back at the time what they were dealing with. That's a difficult thing to do.
mm-hmm.
Very difficult thing to do, and especially people with more, rich man getting into heaven. It's easier, I think, maybe not if you have literally nothing, unless you can see a good benefit on the other side, but it's a tough thing, and you have to be spiritually there, and the movement has to be as well, and you have to have kind of, Jesus directing it, and the endowment, if you will. But then I think that is necessarily going to be a requirement, and it'll benefit us all, even the people who, it might be disproportionate. They bring a lot to the table. I think it's going to benefit them more than the people who came with nothing but the clothes on their back.
True.
But yeah, it's a big ask, and a lot of people, when they read things like this that are looking from the outside, are like, oh, this is communism churched up, and it's not.
Right.
But it has to be done right, and I don't think it gets rid of individual ownership and responsibility and taking care of things, because that's where you fall into the wayside where, oh, it's not mine, it's the church's, and then things aren't taken care of. But I think with the right approach, the Zionic condition is totally possible, but it does require that everything. You have to give God everything and give up your sense of self, not will, but determination, in order to achieve that.
Oh, those are a lot of really good thoughts, Jeremy. That's when I sit and think about all the things you were talking about. It's funny. So like when you touched on the fact that the communism, it's like as a young man reading through and being in the church, and I remember how basically the church's view of Zion at one point was they had the economic Zion, which was more or less kind of this communism version. And then they had the psychological Zion. And then they had basically the totalitarian Zion is basically what I look at, where basically they're going to come in, they're going to divide everything, and this is how it goes. And those were very incorrect viewpoints about what was there. I think you're absolutely right. What God's trying to do here is He's trying to say, hey, listen, I'm trying to get you into the understanding of this idea of sharing. And maybe the idea that, we're all one family because we were one family. There is no such thing as you're not my brother. That we come from the same parents. But it's hard for everyone to see that because it's so far back. So it's interesting how the Lord kind of keeps working with us to get us to the point where we can do that and to do it righteously.
The second greatest law, if I love your kids as much as my kids, there's nothing I wouldn't do for my children. That means there should be nothing I wouldn't be willing to do for yours.
Because you're my family.
And then that changes the whole dynamic of everything.
Yes, it does.
I'm not worried about losing me and mine. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, it's ours. And
What did I lose? Yeah, exactly. Very good. Very good point. And I think that's what, and I'll get to that. I think that's what the challenge that some, when I see people who have nothing or don't have much. When I was growing up, my parents didn't have a lot. They were both in the military and they kind of worked their way up. And what I came to appreciate out of that is that it's not a proud to be poor speech. You just have a different point of view. And when you see things very differently that are materialistic, that are there. And So everybody has a different viewpoint too, because just like those who have done very well for themselves and have wealth, also can see that, you know, what great good they can do with what they have, and what marvelous blessing they can be with others. And you see that with some of these celebrities or these rich folks who really get into it. They start giving, and then all of a sudden they get bitten by the true concept of that and understanding, I want more of this. Life is not about the accumulation of it, it's about the distribution, giving to others, and so forth. But anyway, yep.
I was going to make a point. Besides the scripture being about the money, it also is telling us that the everlasting gospel, which is in the Book of Mormon, which needs to be printed, is where basically the cornerstone for establishing Zion. So knowing all these different religions and stuff with the idea of Zion and everything, they can't build it, do it without the Book of Mormon.
Yes, that's true. That's very true. Other thoughts, Brother Rick? Oh, okay, Brother Bob and then Brother Rick. You guys are almost same time, so good to see.
I was just going to say that when you look at 18a, even though these men were on the work of the church and deeply involved in the work of the church, the first responsibility was to people, to their families. They had to take care of them. And then the second responsibility was to themselves. So that the church didn't come into this until quite further down. But the first responsibility that the Lord wanted to impress on these people was, regardless of what they were doing, their responsibility was to take care of the families and make sure that that was all done in the proper and respectful way, so that they were not destitute and depending on the church for a livelihood.
Yeah, absolutely.
A couple of years ago, didn't we have a theme, something about climbing the mountain together? Am I remembering properly? And so basically that's the concept. It's a communal or group effort, and not one individual is going to do that. And we talk about, people say, well, what you're doing is basically communism. No, if you go to communism or Marxism, it is you will do this whether you want to or not. Ours is strictly voluntary.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and I think I think I've mentioned it before that, you know, when I was a young child, I grew up in a church-sanctioned, I think we were one of the last sanctioned all things common communities. Now, they were doing it wrong because they were thinking about it from an all things common perspective, which really was a communistic point of view. They had one person who basically received everything and then was the divider of everything. And that's not how that's supposed to work at all. And how they didn't read even Joseph's journal. He basically says, we have no common stock among us, you know, meaning we don't do it that way. Everyone is a steward over what they have, and they share what they have for those in need. And they consecrate their surplus to the bishop. And of course, they're supposed to go further than that. But, you know, the one thing I can tell you in living in that environment is that even though as flawed as it was, I could see the potential, because as the group functioned as best it could in that the way it was at, I saw it draw the people closer together, and I saw those people more as my family than it was just, you know, just people that I went to church with, because we lived together, we worked and helped each other, and so forth. And even me being just a little guy trying to do things, I had things that I was responsible for. Didn't do a very good job of it at the time, but but you know, that's a yeah, young boy. That's just where you're at. Okay, good discussion, very good discussion. I was going to bring up in this that one of the interesting things about this is that this same concept actually started, continued on in the church, especially when in the 1920s and 30s, when they could not afford to have the missionaries out. So the church was, because obviously you can imagine, the 1928 crash, all the issues that were out there. Economically, there were issues that everyone had. And they wanted to keep people in the mission field, so they took the monies that they would receive and they would use those to sustain the 70s and the missionaries that went out at that time. And there was kind of a little bit of rub between the bishopric and the presidency in doing that, because they were kind of autonomous in that respect. In other words, they're like, well, hold on now, wait a minute, we don't want you to give all that money. We need you. So there was kind of that little bit of that tug of who should really be dividing the monies out and so forth. But anyway, that's all history, of course. All right. 19a and 19b. Would someone like to read those two verses? Michelle, okay.
And if any man shall give unto any of you a coat or a suit, take the old and cast it unto the poor, or go your way rejoicing. And if any man among you be strong in the spirit, let him take with him he that is weak, that he may be edified in all meekness, that he may become strong also.
Okay. What are your thoughts on those two verses? Yeah, Brother Bob.
Well, the Lord is telling us here that they're not to neglect the poor, that they've still got them with them, and that they should take care of them, and be glad that they got something to replace it with, that they don't have to run around looking thread worn and all of that kind of stuff in order for people to determine that they're doing the work of the church. And also for an individual who is weak in the faith, that they should bear that individual and buoy him up as much as they possibly can, so that he will become an individual that will be able to embark on his own and strike out. And we saw that a lot with Joseph Smith III, when he was going to different locations with different people. And he was, especially R.C. Evans, and he was going out and allowing him to take over when Joseph very well could have done it himself. And yet he bore the man's burdens and lifted him up and helped him and strengthened him, what have you, until eventually he became a more productive member.
Yeah, absolutely. I never had the experience of, giving somebody a coat, and so forth in that respect. Now I have, been a part of programs where we've gone to schools where the kids need gloves and hats and things like that, and we've done things like that. But my closest experience with giving someone something like that was that we were going to buy a new car, and well, actually, we had a car that we didn't need because I had another car, so I was given another car, and I knew someone else needed a car, and so instead of me going and selling that car and just getting the benefit from it, the car was, I can't remember how old it was. Maybe was it 10 years old? Maybe was it, or was it? You don't remember? Okay, it's somewhere around 10 years old, something like that. And I remember giving it, and it ended up going to this gentleman's granddaughter who really needed a car. And she was going to school and work and trying to make it in the world. And here I was just like, well, I'm giving this person a car. It's kind of worn out, I'm kind of embarrassed to give it to them. But I mean, they were so grateful for that car. They thanked us for many years afterwards, and I might have gotten $4,000 or $5,000 for the car, maybe, if I'd have sold the car. But the gift that it was to them was amazing to me. And so I can imagine, you know, somebody who doesn't have a coat or something of that nature, and you giving them that coat. And then on my side, I felt doubly blessed. So it was really something. So, what's that? Oh yeah, we did that with a.
That family used it for years and passed it to another family.
Yeah, so we had a lovely little travel trailer that when our kids were young, we brought them in, and it was small, and I was actually glad it was small and that I couldn't afford it anymore because our kids were close to us, and we built puzzles on the table, and we spent hours together, and we'd read books, and we did things, and you know the kids. What's that? We went to reunions. We did all kinds of fun things, and it really drew our family close, and it was really lovely. And I hated to just get rid of it because a camper doesn't really have a whole lot of resale value, and so I gave it to a family, and then they used it for a while, and then they fixed it up a little bit, and then another family turned, and when it was worn down, and they fixed it up, and their family has it now. And so it's really kind of neat to see how it just passed along to people. And here again, I feel like I got more out of it because I was able to give it away versus the money that I would have received by selling it to someone. I'm not advocating to just give everything away, but I'm just saying there was definitely a value to it. There's something to this concept. All right, and I'm sure you guys can think of things that you've done the same thing with that, you know, put in there. The 19B, I totally agree that I'm so happy the Lord created that verse because I see that verse when it's used, even in the secular world, it's amazing what it does. It's truly amazing what it does. It's a very powerful verse. It's certainly for priesthood. It's there, but I think it's in all walks of life. I see that same principle when the older women take the younger women with them and teach them. You know, it's all there, you know, in that process. And I think that it's something that's very valuable as we go along, because if you can edify someone and make them strong also, now what have you? You've got a stronger, basically family, if you will. Okay, any other thoughts before I leave these two? Okay. Okay, 20A and 20B. Someone like to read those two? Oh, yeah, Brother Rick. Thank you.
Therefore, take with you those who are ordained unto the lesser priesthood, and send them before you to make appointments, and to prepare the way, and to fill appointments that you yourselves are not able to fill. Behold, this is the way that mine apostles in ancient days built up my church unto me.
Okay, what are your thoughts? Oh, yeah, Brother Rick. And then Brother Craig.
I mean, we see this concept every day in secular life. If I have a doctor's appointment, it's usually doctor sees me after 2 or 3 other people have seen me, and they're able to provide information to the doctor that will enable him to sense the situation and work with you more effectively.
Mm-hmm. Brother Craig?
When I was first ordained a priest, there were a couple elders that took me under their wings, and it was wonderful. I'd go home visiting with them, and I would, I started saying the prayer at the beginning, and they'd make a presentation or whatever. We did this with the Go Ye and Teach series, and after a while, they'd let me do part of the presentation. I mean, so it really was very good to take the younger end or the more inexperienced person with a more experienced person And it really was a wonderful way to grow, priesthood or otherwise. I mean, on the job training is the best training there is. You know, and it's like Brother Don was saying at one point, he says, with his shop teacher, he said, we'd read all the material, but we didn't know how to do anything, so he had to show us, you know, how to actually use the tools or show us how this actually came together. And I mean, it's the same thing with this. So I mean, you can do that with almost any aspect of life. If there's something that needs to happen, the best way to have it happen is to be training other people while you're making that happen. And so it's a wonderful concept.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And then I think Brother Carl and then Shell. Yeah, okay.
Well, if you look at it, there's only 12 apostles,
Yeah?
and the world's quite large. So if everyone kind of sowed the seeds as they went and everything, and when you get people to the point where they're asking more questions, and or a group of people and everything, then if you're doing a lot of the work, then you kind of bring the finisher in, you know,
Mhm.
to come in and bring it all together and seal the deal, I guess you would say, as far as, you know, if you're looking at this as an appointments and stuff. So to me, it makes sense that we're all out there doing the work. And like I say, in the priest, you know, but it doesn't have to be just priesthood that's doing that.
Mhm. That's true.
It's that divine principle that the Lord has placed in our lives from the very beginning. It's the learning process. The first thing you do is you begin to learn what? Your words from mom and dad, because they are experienced. And then as that goes on, it just keeps going on. You get to the school and you have a teacher that's helping you learn, and you put things together, and all of a sudden 2 + 2 looks pretty good, and yeah, it does make 4. That kind of thing. So that has always been the divine process from the very, very beginning. I'm sure that the Lord placed within our lives, or brought things together in a family, brought things together in a school, in a church, however you want to look at it. But it was always for that process, a learning process, so that we as individuals or groups could learn that which we did not know, didn't know how to do it, didn't understand how to do it, and we were helped to do it. And so that's the learning process, and that's God's process. Always has been.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think my experience when I was a priest running around, and I did do that. I did make appointments. And the interesting thing is that, and I saw how this worked together, because many times I would be talking to somebody, and I was kind of the icebreaker. So I'm talking to somebody, and they're not sure what they're going to get in this visit with the elders and so forth. And I was able to provide that really Aaronic ministry, and to see into what they needed, and to help kind of shape and also I was able to pray for them, because I was able to meet them. I could discern what was there. I could see what they needed in their house without even really but having just a short, 15 or 20 minute conversation with them. And then when the elders came in, I could do the actual introduction, and basically proverbially put them around my arm and think, these are my brothers, and they're going to come and talk to you about the gospel. It's all the priesthood officers are designed to work together, and when we do use them as they're intended, it's amazing what happens. Just like you're saying. All right, excellent discussion. I don't know why that slide slid on me. Okay, well, somebody like to read 21A and B. Okay, thank you, Brother Rick.
Somebody's got to do it.
Oh,
Therefore, let every man stand in his own office, and labor in his own calling, and let not the head say unto the feet, It hath no need of the feet, for without the feet how shall the body be able to stand? Also the body hath need of every member, that all may be edified together, that the system may be kept perfect.
Okay. So you can kind of see my interpretation of that when you see my picture that I chose to create up there, but. And if you grasp that, what are your thoughts? Oh, yeah, Brother Jeremy.
It comes down to the basic, the priesthood is there for the perfection of the saints.
Mm-hmm.
Period. And so the perfection of the saints, and that's what it's saying, and every single office has its place,
Mm-hmm.
and the members, in some respects, are kind of the highest office, because that's how God is going to measure his church, is the weakest link, and the members. Is what good does it do to have an apostle who's having visions and daily speaking with angels, and yet his congregation is suffering and not understanding God and living God's commandments. So yeah, the priesthood responsibilities, I think the higher you go, the more intimidating and the more responsibility and the more humbling it is. When you look at the responsibilities, looking at all that stuff, it's like, I'd rather be a deacon. I'd rather just take care of the needs of the church, make things run. Hey, you need some food? Let's get you some food. That's a whole lot easier than what's going on in your soul and how do we heal that? Like, ugh. And when it's your responsibility to do that, and there's some tough nuts to crack, and being able to do that in a way that's inviting and forgiving and loving, and get them across that line where they can have that relationship with God, that's a huge task. Now, we have the tools, it's outlined very well in the Doctrine and Covenants, but, in practice, it's a little dicier.
Oh.
And then, relying on God's direction, because, you can be right and you can be right.
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes beating people over the head with the truth sometimes drives them away, versus saying, hey, this is the standard. We're going to help you get there, but it's all in love, and we're not coming at this as a shameful thing so much, because Christ took all that on him. So it's a task, but every part plays its role, and that's the only way we get the kingdom, is if every single part,
Yeah. Well, you're absolutely right. I mean, the Lord did say that the highest office and calling in the church is member. And I have always contended that because it is the highest office and calling in the church, they can do the most good. It's always assumed that the priesthood are the ones that can do the most good. Certainly they are the ones that are to handle the ordinances and to do those things. But members have power to share and to do things and to love in ways that are just marvelous, that are, I think, so many times overlooked in that great process. Brother Carl. Oh, you didn't?
I was just remembering when I was called a deacon, rather young, 16, I was told by a good member of the priesthood that one of the duties of a deacon was to go in the home and teach the financial law.
Mm-hmm.
And I said to myself, I'm going to go to someone like, let's say Tom, who is much older than I am at that point, and I'm going to talk to Tom about how to take care of his finances and accounting and all that kind of thing. I had a good friend that was a member of the church that was a banker.
Mm.
And I asked him to go with me when I got an assignment, like that, to go with me and to be there. And it was marvelous how he was able to talk to that person in a way that I would not have been able to talk to him. But there was a member, I asked that member to go with me. He's much older than I was, but I still asked him to go, and he said yes. And member, priesthood, both of them working together got the job done.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Brother Jeremy brought up a very good point, and that was is that, my dad always used to call this, because him being a pilot, you can be right and you can be dead right. It's like, which would you rather be? And what he's saying about that is that, you could be absolutely right. You did everything right and this is what you're supposed to be. But you might need to step out of the way because you're about to be hit by a freight train kind of thing, or in that case, another pilot taxis on the runway, starts to take off, and you're already there, and you might be better off just to, you were the first one called, they messed up, but to clear that runway so that you don't get run over. The thing is that I've seen in ministry, and I'm just going to talk about it because it's so important to remember that when we share the gospel, yes, I've had the opportunity to talk to many LDS. I've had to talk to many different religions and so forth. And even though I know chapter and verse, and debate me, I'm ready. Let's go. I got you. No. The Lord's Spirit's telling me, you need to humble yourself. You need to reach this person. You need to love them first and draw out the positive response of Christ in them. And when you do that, then you will be able to share what the Lord puts upon your heart. And you may not be able to get to, but I wanted to correct this mistake you had over here. You can't do that. You have to follow the leadings of the Spirit. And it's so hard to do because, my only hope and prayer is that when I'm out there, I can walk with the Spirit of the Melchizedek with me so that they recognize that Spirit that's there. Because to my shame, I don't always walk in that Spirit. And that's the indictment. And it's hard to do. It's not easy. It's like walking on a tightrope. You're constantly balancing yourself, And it's not like somebody doesn't come up and give you a shove, because they do. And sometimes it's the very people you're trying to help. But anyway, excellent discussion. I really appreciate your thoughts. All right, let's go on to the next one here. We're making good time here. And what I was showing here, by the way, in the picture, if you didn't get, is that basically you have kind of like the standing ministry and you have the traveling ministry. And one shouldn't really be trying to, think one's better than the other, or, basically aspiring after the other. Maybe desiring to do more, but not aspiring, of course. Okay, 22. Is that right? Yeah, 22. Something like that. Yes, Brother Craig. Did I miss you the last time? I'm sorry if I did. Okay.
I'll read anytime you need someone to read.
I appreciate that. You see it okay?
And behold, the high priest should travel, and also the elders, and also the lesser priests. But the deacons and teachers should be appointed to watch over the church, to be standing ministers unto the church.
I have some definite thoughts about that, but what are your thoughts? Oh, Brother Jeremy?
The sick don't need a doctor. So high priests, elders, traveling, finding those people who need to find Jesus and make that covenant with him in baptism and confirmed into the church. And when you read the responsibilities of the deacons and priests and specifically teachers, they're like the conflict resolution. So, okay, we've made a covenant with Jesus. and then we start living our daily lives in our churches, and we bicker and fight over stupid things. And so they're really there to kind of shepherd people in the way. And granted, they can't perform some of the ordinances, but they can keep people in line and with that right focus. The Aaronic priesthood is, I mean, they're all important. They're just as important, but I think of them as more of the temporal and the guidance counselors in your families. They should be in those homes. They should know everybody like a beat cop, so they know, oh, well, Mr. Smith over here is, we know who he is, we know what he's about, and we know what his issues are, and help guide people through that, so everyone can grow, and maybe what was someone's weakness can be someone else's strength, and vice versa.
Yeah.
And then let those guys who are really, the heady, the theologians, if you will, go out and spread the gospel and bring people in, and then the daily life stuff, it's led by someone else.
Yeah. Well, and each one is extremely important for sure. For me, the ministry of the Aaronic is really extremely important because I was a priest. I was never a deacon or a teacher, but I always kind of viewed the offices as that whatever office you were, you could actually officiate in those offices that were below that. That's how I saw that, and that's, of course, that's all the way up to the presidency was that way. But I know that in my time being an Aaronic minister, I was able to discern. Again, I prayed over the congregation, and I was able to discern. So I would walk up to somebody, and when they would say, I'd ask, "How you doing?" And then they'd say, "Oh, I'm doing okay." And I go, "Are you really?" "No, this is Jim. How are you really doing?" I'm not trying to get into anything, but you just don't look like you're feeling well today. You don't look like everything. Then they start telling you how they feel. And then that's where you can provide that ministry of love for that particular person. And then sometimes I was the guy that was like, "I'll go get you an elder. Would you like to be administered to?" "Well, yeah, that would be, okay, let me go make that happen. You sit here and I'll go make that happen." Or it was we had a little church off of Chrysler and Linden. So we had people that walked in that sometimes were a lot of trouble. And even though I'm not a big man, and I tend to be soft-spoken, believe it or not, I can be kind of firm. And I remember basically showing a few people the door because they came to cause trouble. And I'm not talking about a little trouble, a lot of trouble. And it's like, no, that's not what we're going to do here. And if we're going to talk, let's talk out on the sidewalk. We're not going to do that in here. The ministry that they have is marvelous, and it has a huge range, and they don't always know what they're going to get hit with, because the other part is that the Aaronic priesthood, I don't know if you've ever thought about this, but they see us when we're grumpy, when we're muttering, or when we're I'll never forget. My wife put this so well. It was like we were, on Sunday mornings when the kids were young. As you can probably imagine, sometimes there was disharmony in the house in getting everybody dressed and on time, and all of that, and then we're going to sit in the pews and we're going to feel the Spirit, and it's especially on, it seemed like Communion Sunday that just seemed to happen, right? And you're like, but the ministry that the Aaronic priesthood brought and the help that they were when they were functioning, because we saw them function as they should, was wondrous for our family. And it can be. So it's just marvelous to see each priesthood office and the gifts and talents the Lord gives them and the responsibilities He gives them. And when it operates properly, what it does, it's amazing. Okay, my time has fled. Unless somebody has anything they want to say, I really appreciate your participation. It's been lovely. Oh, yes, Sister Ruth.
I'd like to know what the lesser priests are.
That's the Aaronic priest. So you have the high priest, and the lesser priest would be the Aaronic priest. Yes. Although I can tell you what Joseph said about that, by the way. Because Joseph said, if an Aaronic priest actually operates in the office and calling and magnifies that office, he has the same joy as that of the first presidency. So think about that. Yeah.
My father-in-law had a rather good relationship with the Lord. I know that. But one of the things that I observed as I was in his presence in services, especially the Lord's Supper, he always had a teacher on the rostrum with him. And his the specific responsibility in that service was to look out over the congregation and to read what he saw, and if he found a problem, he needed to report that to him so that they could get ministry there. And I thought that was, that's a good way to use the teacher.
And here again, there's special gifts given to the teacher that are, just like the deacon is a little bishop, and the teacher, All right, well, thank you all. Let us make preparation for the service.